Welcome to Complete BS, the official podcast of couch coaches everywhere. Not just football. It's every sport that ruins your parlay, wrecks your fantasy week, and still brings you back for more. Buzzer beaters, blown leads, and brackets and flames. Yeah, we're all over it. Unfiltered takes, armchair analysis, and enough bold opinions to fill a playbook. Hosted by Brien Schmauch, sports junkie, the Saban of stats, and your official voice of I could coach better than that. Let's go.
Welcome to Complete BS. We're going to do our Florida State preview today with Kirk Carruthers, fifth all-time leading tackler in Florida State history with 435 tackles, was captain of the 1991 team, three-time All-Independent. Back in 1991, Florida State wasn't in a conference, so they were independents, but you also have to keep in mind Notre Dame, Penn State, Louisville, there were a bunch of other independents, South Carolina at this time. So really good football teams that were independent. Two-time honorable mention All-American. And for me personally, can I just say, Michael Alford, if you're listening, it's complete BS that Kirk Carruthers is not in the FSU Athletic Hall of Fame. This is a Hall of Famer right here, Kirk. I'm so happy to have you on.
Wow, Brian, my pleasure. And thank you for that incredible introduction. I appreciate it. And I really do appreciate the shout out for the Hall of Fame. Hopefully one day, Brian, I'll get in there, and that would definitely be a great honor. So definitely praying for that.
So you and I we both grew up in Michigan, but you're from East Lansing. How in the world did George Perlis and Bo Schembechler let you leave State of Michigan?
You know, it's funny. When I was being recruited, of course, being from East Lansing, having my dad coach and play at Michigan State, my dad's best friend was George Perlis, the head coach at that time. So everybody pretty much expected that I was definitely going to be a Spartan. And, you know, Brian, at that time, I was really kind of a young, brash 18-year-old. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to look around a little bit and expand my horizons. And as a matter of fact, one game I was a recruit for Michigan State, and they just happened to be playing Florida State. And so I went to that game as a recruit for Michigan State and ended up falling in love with Florida State and wanted to become a Nole. And I just loved the way they played football. Of course, Bobby Bowden and his style and the way that they just attacked and the speed of the game that they played was just something like I had never seen, because I was just so used to the Big Ten and just that run it up the gut kind of play. And so like I said, I instantly fell in love with Florida State, and I decided that I wanted to be a Nole.
Coach Bowden, one of the legends of the game. What's something that you remember from Coach Bowden? Maybe something that he taught you, a favorite memory, something along those lines.
There's so many memories, Brian, and just so many things that I took from Coach Bowden. What a fixture of college football, but even more importantly, what a man. Obviously, a man of his great faith, a man of great morals, and there were so many things, but I think probably the most important thing that I learned from Coach Bowden was how to be a man and how to be a respectable man, how to treat my family, how to treat my friends. One of the most important things that I've had happen in my life is my relationship with Jesus Christ. So he was instrumental in that, along with Dr. Stowers. There was just so many things, but I think the most important thing was just how the impact that he had on my life, and just wanted to be a man of faith, a man of morals, a man of honesty, and a family man. And so those were the things I take probably most great pride in. But of course, so many things on the field, Brian. He first accepted me as a player, and he allowed me to play the style of football that I wanted to play, and to have that freedom. And he gave me that confidence. And that was probably the most important thing that he gave me as an athlete, was the ability to go out and play my game and to play with such confidence. And he installed that in me, and he allowed me to do what I did. And in doing so, I got lucky. Like you said, I became the fifth all-time leading tackler in Florida State history. And I owe a lot of my success, of course, to Coach Bowden, Coach Andrews, Coach Burnham. They were all instrumental, definitely, in my success.
When we talk about 435 career tackles, this was not a linebacker room that was devoid of talent. This linebacker room had Marvin Jones, Ken Alexander, and Derek Brooks in it. What's that linebacker meeting room like, and the competition between you guys? 'Cause, man, you're talking about some legends at Florida State.
Absolutely, Brian. What a neat room to be in. And whenever I talk to people and I say my brothers and my linebacking core was just like you said, I was Marvin Jones, Derek Brooks, Ken Alexander, Howard Dinkins, Sterling Palmer. This goes on and on. But it was such a neat room to be in, because it was a brotherhood. but it was also extremely competitive. And we held each other extremely accountable for our play and to go out every day and give it our best and give 110%. And we prided ourselves in doing that, not only personally, but also to hold each other up to that as well.
Players always say the biggest adjustment coming from high school to college is the speed of the college game. Do you recall a moment where you quote unquote got it and you knew you belonged at this level?
My freshman year, I was coming in from Michigan and everybody else was from Florida and Georgia and Alabama. And I was an unknown entity at that time. I was probably going to be redshirted. And then one day they put together a scrub punt team to give the first punt return team a look. And there was a guy back there returning punts. His name was Deion Sanders. And they threw me in that group. And of course, we pumped the ball and I'm running down and I'm like, oh, goodness gracious, what's going to happen here? And I'm starting to look at the ball and I'm looking at Deion. I'm getting closer and the ball's starting to come down. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be able to make a play on this. Then I thought real quick this time, this might not turn out so good. I think it might have been a little bit of grace from God, a little bit of my ability, and probably maybe Deion making one too many moves. But I made an open field tackle on prime. And the next day, I was no longer being redshirted. I was on the starting defense at Florida State my freshman year. So that play, Brien, was instrumental in my career once again, giving me the confidence to know that I could play at this level, but also knowing, hey, I'm here. I can make plays on probably the best player in the country at that time. It really catapulted my career from that point on.
Can't imagine the confidence boost to make that open field tackle, like you said, on at that time, probably the best player in the country, Deion Sanders, and to know you got him in your sights and he wasn't getting away from you, that did a lot for your confidence. I can absolutely see that. If we come forward to the present day, and if you were the commissioner of college football right now, what's the one thing you'd change?
I think we all probably have the same feelings on the NIL, the transfer portal. I think those are the two things that I would definitely change. First, I want to say that I think college athletes should be getting compensated monetarily in some aspect, but the way that they've handled it is just crazy. I mean, that not to have any control or any caps or just some kind of restriction on as far as some of these payments was a ridiculous way to launch the program. I think there has to be some kind of restriction or some kind of cap. And then also, I think there has to be almost some form of pay for performance. I think these guys just coming in and getting paid without even making one play on the football field is crazy. I think that the schools should be protected as well. And that allows them obviously to not have a player just come in, collect a check, and then the next year jump to another school and be compensated by another school. And then the transfer portal, in my day, of course, Brien, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. I think this is still a good rule due to the fact that this eliminates a player from coming into a program. And if he doesn't get a little bit of playing time, or maybe something just doesn't feel right or something he doesn't agree with, well, that's part of the maturation process of becoming a football player, is paying your dues. Some of those times are going to be tough and some of those times are going to be painful, but that makes us tougher, better football players. And so I think these guys are a little bit entitled nowadays. Now, if they don't get a little bit of more playing time, or if they don't get their way, and then they're automatically jumping to another program. So I think the elimination of being able to jump to another program without a year penalty should be there should be an implementation of some form of them having to sit out or some kind of penalty for them if they do transfer. So those are the two biggest things. I think we can all agree on that. Is NIL needs to be capped, or there needs to be some kind of structure on that because it's so out of control. And then of course, I think the transfer portal needs to be contained as well.
I think with the transfer portal, one of the things that I talked about in a previous episode is that whether we stay at a P4 or we move to a P2, whatever that top tier of football is, you can't transfer within that top tier of football. So if your coach changes, if you need a change of scenery, if you're not getting playing time and you want to transfer, you got to go down to what's now the group of 5 and not be able to transfer within that current P4 structure. In doing that too, you're also going to go from schools that have more financial resources with NIL, that if you're going to leave, you might leave for an opportunity to play, but you're not going to have the same kind of NIL deal that you've had, and get yourself the opportunity to play get some film, and then you can come back up into that P2 or P4 level, depending on however this shakes out with realignment down the road. I think that might do a lot to help coaches manage their roster and they're not having to re-recruit their entire every year, but also too with NIL. Again, if you're going to drop down, you're going to leave some money on the table in order to be able to get maybe put yourself in a better position by being able to play. I absolutely agree with you though on the NIL deals, that money that's going out there. Players should absolutely be able to make money off of their name, image, and likeness. But being able to sign a really lucrative deal out of high school when you've never played a down in college football, I think it was Coach Kirby Smart was talking about a couple of high school recruits that this person's asking for more than guys that are starting for me, and why this high school senior get a deal that is greater than guys that are starting for my team. Last year, they won the SEC, and this is a starter. NIL initially was designed for players to be able to make money off of selling their jerseys and doing an advertisement here and there, not the pay to play that we're seeing now. So I agree with you 100%.
Brian, I like what you just said. I think that might be the perfect solution as far as having to level down if you do transfer. I like that a lot. You might have just solved all of our issues right there. And it's funny with some of these contracts, and I know there's a direct correlation to it. I think it's taken a lot of the motivation away from these guys. I saw guys that had some of these bigger contracts taking plays off, which I would have never imagined. Another one, any of my brothers that I played with ever take a play off. For heaven's sakes, Mickey Andrews would have not allowed that. We would have been yanked off the field extremely quickly. I think some of these contracts have taken a lot of the fire away from these guys. And they're like, I can take a play off. I've got $1 million in the bank. I think it's almost taken a little bit of motivation away from going to that next level as well. I know that guys, obviously that's all our ultimate goal is getting to the league. But at the same time, if you make $3, $4, $5 million in college, you're pretty much set for life if you handle your money correctly. And so it's just a shame to see some of those contracts. I think it's just done a lot of damage to our sports, and hopefully they will get it rectified.
So what are you up to these days? From what I understand, you've got a new health and fitness company. Is there something that you can share with us? Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, after I retired from the CFL and had been blessed with a career in medical sales for the past 30 years. And so now my passion is health and fitness. There's a franchise called So Fresh, which is healthy fast food. Whenever I went and tried to get something quick for lunch when I was out working, there's just not a lot of options for healthy food on the go. And I always said, gosh, I wish that the concept would come up for someone to put together something that was nutritional. You could get some great whole foods and obviously have high proteins, but there just wasn't anything out there. But now I finally found a franchise called So Fresh. So I'll be opening up a franchise in Tallahassee, but I'm also going to be implementing a health and fitness modality to it that goes along with skeletal muscle growth, as well as implementing a walk-in program involved in between each sets. It's called Go Walk Out. So I'll have a health base to it with the Go Walk Out platform, and then the nutrition will be through So Fresh.
I'm excited to see where you're able to take that here in Tallahassee. Let's go ahead and dive into the 2025 team. I think we got to start on offense and coaching changes that happened in the offseason. We're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, Gus Malzahn, wide receiver coach, Tim Harris Jr., offensive line coach, Herb Hand. Florida State's coming off a 2-10 season. We got 3 new coaches coming in from all 3 from UCF, and they're 4-8 last year. I'm looking at Florida State with cautious eyes. I want to see growth and I want to see where they can go with it, but I'm also cautious in thinking we're bringing in 3 coaches off a team that maybe wasn't that good last year. UCF, one of the things that Gus Malzahn's known for is running the ball. UCF was ranked 5th last year nationally in rushing with 248 yards a game. Florida State is going to run the ball a lot this year. What do you know about Gus Malzahn and his offense?
Well, like you said, Brian, what an interesting season, right? We come from 2023 where we go undefeated. Unfortunately, we get cheated out of the playoffs. And then we come into 2024 with such high expectations. We bring in DJU and we think, okay, we're going to roll into this season and make another impact. And then we have, like you said, quite honestly, a disaster of a season. We went 2-10. DJU, unfortunately, didn't produce and we had a real disappointing season. Coach Norvell sees that changes needed to happen this season. So he does all the right things, and he comes in and he comes and brings, of course, Gus. He brings Tony. He gets us a new offensive line coach, a new wide receivers coach, a new linebackers coach. I think we've got the right people in the right places. Obviously, he did a great job in the recruiting class this year. We got some real talented kids off the portal. So I believe that we have, like I said, all the right pieces in place. But once again, it's the unknown. This is going to be a very interesting season. I don't know if any program's ever done what's happened here in the last 3 years, going from undefeated, then going from 2-10, and then jumping into this kind of a season. With that being said, I think Gus was a great hire. I'm interested to see Castellano, right? Let's see what this guy's all about. Obviously, he almost beat us in 2023. He's extremely talented. He can run, he can pass. He's a perfect fit for this offense. He was with Gus UCF for a year, so they've got that relationship already in place. I think that's a huge benefit as well. I'm real excited for the season, and I'm excited to see what Gus has in store.
I'm not as high on Gus as you might be. I felt the hire was a little bit safe. I would have liked to see Norvell maybe go outside of his comfort zone a little bit. They had a working relationship beforehand. And I know a lot of coaches do that around the country. They've got their guys that they're connected with. I would have liked to see him maybe branch out a little bit more. I'm curious to see where Gus goes with this, because I know we're going to run the ball and we've got a lot of really talented guys in the running back room. And then, of course, Tommy Castellanos, he's going to be part of that running game as well. He's a little bit smaller. He's an athletic transfer from Boston College. As you mentioned, he almost beat us in 2023, but he's not a great passer. He can get the job done, but he's definitely not a great passer, more of a talent with his legs. He is a much better fit for Malzahn's scheme than what we had. And so I think that marriage could work for this 1 year that Castellanos has available in eligibility. But for this year, Castellanos, I think the fit is good, but we've definitely seen in his career, he has some real highs and we have some real lows from what he's been able to put on film before. Similar to the year before with DJU, he had some real highs and he had some real lows. I know the Florida State fans out there are looking for more of those highs. If he can avoid the turnovers, make quick decisions, and manage the game, it's going to be a lot better for him with that Malzahn offense. The key for him is being able to read the defense and check us out of one run into another run, or maybe be able to check into a pass if the defense is coming up towards the line. And we might be able to exploit that with a little bit of a pass across the middle or see something open along the sidelines.
Yeah, I love your transparency, Brien, with the hire Malzahn. I think the relationship with Castellanos, I think that's going to be key. But like you said, with DJU, I think we all have a bad taste in our mouth after that acquisition and what happened there. I think Castellanos is a little bit of a different player. I think he's lacking a little bit in the passing game, but he's so darn exciting. He's so darn elusive when he has the ball in his hands, and he makes things happen, which is what we want, obviously, with this offense. I think that's going to be an advantage with Gus and with that high-powered offense, and just trying to keep the defense off guard. But I'm a little concerned with the passing game as well. And obviously that's why we've got a new wide receivers coach. The wide receivers were definitely a deficiency last year. Our passing game was extremely poor. I think you were generous with saying there was a lot of highs and a lot of lows with DJU last year. Unfortunately, he was just not the right player for our scheme.
I think Tommy Castellanos, his best friend's going to be the guys right behind him, handing the ball off to Roydell Williams, Cam Davis, Sam Singleton, sometimes forgotten man, Gavin Sawchuck's an Oklahoma transfer coming in, and then Croma, the true freshman. He's going to play right away. He's not redshirting. He's getting the ball. He's got talent with the wide receivers. Deuce Robinson, he's a legacy. Dominic Robinson's son coming in. Really tall, athletic wide receiver. He's got all the talent. He's got the size everyone in the NFL is looking for. Can he put it together? Squirrel White transfers in from Tennessee, so he's done it at a big level. And then the highly touted freshman Boggs coming in. He was committed to UCF, and both Coach Harris and Malzahn there, when they came up here, he decommitted and came to Florida State. I've heard really good things about him. You've got 6'4" Elijah Moore, redshirt freshman. He's a big target on the outside. And then I think one of the bright spots on this offense is going to be, we're going to run some two tight sets. You got Landon Thomas, Randy Pittman, a transfer from UCF. So Pittman knows this offense. You've got a blocking specialist in Marquiston Douglas, and then a big body freshman, 6'6" Chase Lofton. Those four guys, we're going to run two tight ends. They're going to be working across the middle. They're going to be in blocking for that stable of running backs and just moving the chains down the field with that running game. But the tight ends are going to play a big role in this offense.
I don't want to be redundant, but I almost want to go back down that list that you just said. What a great list of weapons Tommy's got, right? And I think Gus knows that. I think he's going to put Tommy in the right places to be able to utilize all these guys. Because like you said, wow, what a cast. Those studs in the backfield, those guys are wide out. And then those big kids at the tight end position. Really, all Tommy has to do is play his game and just utilize that supporting cast.
He doesn't have to win the games. He has to manage the game. He has to get the ball in his playmakers' hands. And that's all going to happen if this offensive line up front, Coach Herb Hand, if they can produce. We're looking at 4, possibly 5 brand new starters on the offensive line, depending on who gets that opening day start. The depth has improved, so we're always going to have some injuries on the offensive line. With the depth there, they can absorb an injury here or there. But last year, it seemed like every game we were running out a brand new unit of 5 offensive linemen, and there was never any continuity. This year, you got Gunnar Hansen transferred in from Vanderbilt at left tackle, Adrian Medley transferring in from UCF. I think that's the key right there is he knows Malzahn and Hand systems. He knows the blocking assignments, and he can be that extra set of eyes and coach for the players, whether it's away from the locker room or even on the sidelines. He's able to talk with the rest of the linemen as far as what he knows Coach Hand is looking for. Luke Pettibon, the Wake Forest transfer at center. Micah Pettis, Ole Miss transfer. He's going to line up at offensive tackle. Man, this guy's massive. He's the first one you want off the bus. He looks the part. Let's see how he does. And then the questions at right guard, whether it's going to be Richie Leonard or Andre Otto. But this group together, they've got to play. They've got to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And we're going to find out early because game 1, Alabama coming into Doak Campbell, and that's a defensive line loaded with NFL talent. And how we play on the offensive line in the trenches against that defensive line is going to tell me a lot for the rest of the season. Are we going to be able to run on the AC? Are we going to be able to run against Miami? Are we going to be able to run against Clemson and Florida, some of the tougher teams that we're going to face this year? That game, that particular unit, the offensive line versus the Alabama defensive line, we're going to know a lot about them.
So on point, Brien. Now, getting to the offensive line. Hey, this has been a cringe segment for us for the past, even in 2023. Like you said, we even had injuries there and we were running guys in and out. And we had some problems even in 23. But it seems like for the past, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it seems like offensive line has just been a huge issue. And so now with that being said, what a test. August 30th, we're going up against some beasts from Alabama. And these guys have the opportunity to gain some confidence, go out there and prove that you can play at this level against one of the best teams in the country. And let's start to build some momentum off that. And let's try to control the line of scrimmage. If these guys come to play, I mean, these guys are Division I athletes. You're at Florida State. This is why you come. This is why you come to a program like Florida State, is to play in a game like the Alabama game. And if you want to raise your game and you want to play at this level and prove yourself to the country, you come out and you prove yourself on the 30.
When we switch to the other side of the ball with the defense, we've got some new faces over there. Also, defensive coordinator Tony White comes in from Nebraska. Evan Cooper, our safeties coach, and D-line Terrence Knighton. Now, Tony White brings with him his 3-3-5 defense. And from the bit that I've looked at his defenses and watching Nebraska and how their defense likes to play, you're looking at a lot of multiple schemes. and bringing blitzes from all over the place. Tony White likes to blitz, and he's bringing those blitzes from everywhere. With 5 defensive backs, he might be blitzing a safety or a corner, dropping a linebacker into coverage. So you're having a lot of different looks to really try and confuse the offense. What have you seen, and what do you know about the 3-3-5 and how that might be beneficial compared to the more traditional 4-3 or 3-4?
I love it, Brian. It's an exciting defense. It's an attacking defense. I was always a huge fan of blitzing. I love to blitz myself as a player. I had quite a bit of success in doing it. And I think Tony's bringing in the right defense. You just don't know where these guys are going to be coming from. And I think that's great for a defense to keep the offense guessing like that, keeps them off guard. I didn't see a real big, aggressive, attacking Florida State defense last year. I think Tony's the right guy for the job. I love this defense. It's exactly what we need right now, is just to have a little spark and a little fire, because things needed to change defensively. I think we've got a real talented defensive back core. Our defensive line, we brought in some studs there as well. The linebackers, which of course I'm partial to this group. I've been a little disappointed in the linebacker play for the past few years, but I see some real talented kids this year. So I'm excited to see what they do. But I think this defense, Brian, is something that Florida State needs.
You hit the nail on the head with the defensive back room. The defensive backs, when you run in a 3-3-5, obviously the 5 is your secondary, and that's the strength of this defense. I expect that we're going to have 12 to 14 defensive backs that are going to play a lot of minutes this season. They're deep. We've got guys all over the place, and you're going to see them lining up in different positions. You're going to see them sneaking up to the line and almost think, wait a minute, are we running a 3-4 now? It looks like we've got 4 linebackers there, but no, that's a safety that's moved up, or it's a corner that's showing blitz, but then is going to peel off. That secondary is the strength of this defense. I'm with you 100% on the linebackers. It's been a bit of a letdown in recent years. Stephon Thompson, who transfers in from Nebraska, much like Adrian Medley on the offensive line, I think he's going to be vital for early on being able to help the linebackers understand what Coach White's looking for. And then James Williams, transfer from Nebraska on the defensive line, much in that same vein. He knows exactly what Terrence Knighton's looking for. The defensive line is my big question mark and concern with this defense. Not so much the starting 3 up there, but it's the depth behind them. Even the starting 3, there's questions there, but then behind them, there's even more questions because we don't know who's going to step up. There's a lot of youth back there. There's talent, but a lot of questions. So the defensive line is the biggest question for me on the defense. The secondary, that's where we're going to have to really rely on things from a defensive standpoint. Jeremiah Wilson, he's your projected shutdown corner, and he's going to be tested week 1 also, just like that offensive line. He's got All-American Ryan Williams, and is he going to be able to limit Ryan Williams' production? That'll go a lot to determine how this defense is going to play.
That's going to be a fun matchup to watch all day. I've got some young guys there, but the beautiful part about Tony's defense is the fact we're basing it around our best segment on the field, and that's our defensive backing core. These guys are fast, they're athletic, and with that scheme, just like we said, you don't know when we're bringing guys up, we're dropping guys back. That really makes it tough on the offense and the quarterback to be able to read the defense and to be able to adjust and make the right calls and right audibles. This is Florida State, and I take pride on being an ex-Seminole. And that's why I came here, because we're one of the best programs in the country. And if you want to come here, you want to play, then you better be one of the best players in the country.
All right, Kirk, how about we go through game by game and just give me a win or a loss?
Yeah, sure.
All right, week 1, we've got Alabama.
What an incredible test. Usually we have a nice warm-up game, and total transparency and being totally realistic. What a tough game to start on with. I love my Noles, and I would love for us to start off 1-0, but unfortunately, I think this is going to be lost.
I've also got this as a loss. I think it is offensive and defensive line in the trenches. Can we play with Alabama on both sides of the ball, up front on the line of scrimmage? If we look like we belong, that will give every fan a whole lot of confidence for the rest of the season. If we get pushed around on the line of scrimmage, we could be in for a long season. So that, for me, watch the line, see how we look there, and that's going to tell you a lot about the season. I think when you look at week 2 and 3, East Texas A&M and Kent State, I've got them both as wins. If they're not wins, we've got a whole nother conversation to have.
I agree with you 100%, Brian. I've got those both as wins too. You're right. If we come out of either one of those weeks with a loss, then we've got major problems for sure. And just to regress a little bit about Alabama, I think once again, super on point. If we come out of there and look like we belong, looks like we played with them and we held our own, I think that's a huge victory, even though we both had them as a loss. But if we come out of there with some confidence and look like we were able to play, then I think that's a huge victory going into weeks 2 and week 3. Going into week 4, I think we should be 2-1.
Agreed. And we go up to Virginia. I believe that's a Friday night game up there.
I believe you're right.
How do you see that game?
I think this is going to be another tough game for us. I've seen a few different analysis on this game. Unfortunately, I think this might be a loss. It's going to be on the road. And so with that being said, our first road game, I think we're going to be going into week 5 at 2-2.
I've got the Noles beating Virginia on the road. They've only returned 2 offensive starters for Virginia. Their entire secondary is new. As long as they're not looking ahead to Miami, I've got this as a win. 3-1. You've got them 2-2. And we've got a rivalry game. It's Canes week.
My favorite week. I always pick us to win this game because of I detest the Gators more than I detest the Canes. So those are always victories for me as far as when I'm picking games. So I pick us to beat the Canes. Another tough game, but once again, that's why you come to Florida State for Florida State, Miami, Florida State, Florida. And so hopefully the Noles come to play and come with some pride and we pull out a win.
So I've got us going into this game at 3-1. I've got Miami coming in at 2-2 with losses to Notre Dame and to Florida. I think the game will be close. I think Mario Cristobal is one of the weaker in-game coaches. And if we can get it to the second half, late into the second half, I will definitely like our chances. But I think Miami's got a little bit too much talent right now on paper. And so I've got this as a loss. We both have them at 3-2 right now, but got there a little different way. Week 6, Pittsburgh.
This is going to be interesting for sure, but how are you seeing this?
Pittsburgh last year, they started 7-0 before losing their final 6 games. They returned 7 starters on both sides of the ball. Narduzzi's teams are always really well coached. It's at Doak Campbell. Florida State gets the win.
I like it a lot. These guys are tough. I like us being at Doak. I think that's a huge advantage. Depending on how the Miami game goes, it depends how beat up we get. And once again, just like we both have been talking about, it's all about the line of scrimmage and our offensive line. I'm going to say this is a victory for Florida State as well. Hopefully our offensive line comes to play and we pull one out there too.
Week 7, we're at Stanford. This game's at 10:30 at night Eastern time for us. So everybody's going to have to get a nap that afternoon. I haven't even looked to see what's going on in the midday games at the normal 3:30. Folks in Tallahassee and Florida State fans are going to be hurting at this 10:30 kick. Stanford, back-to-back 3-9 seasons. They've got an interim coach, Frank Reich, who's come in, and he's just there to keep things together right now. For me, the talent edge is too great. Florida State wins this. And when you go into week 8, I'm just going to combine these two with Wake Forest. New coach there, Jake Dickert, that came in from Washington State. Their defense last year for Wake gave up 32 points a game. It's not going to be a quick turnaround for the new coaching staff. I think Florida State wins these games both convincingly. This 3-game stretch right here with Pitt, Stanford, and Wake, for me, is the key to the season because you can't have a loss to a team that you should win. I've got them now at 6-2 after these 3 games. You got to win these 3 games, and that sets you up to be bowl eligible.
You're right. This is the heart of the schedule. And once again, how crucial this is going to be in this 3-game run. Unless we get some crazy jet lag going out to Stanford and playing at that 10:30 spot, I don't think they can hang with us. Wake Forest, I don't think they can hang with us either. And then hopefully that 3rd game in this streak, we pull that one out too, and then we're rolling, like you said. If we can do that, this is going to be a great season for us and a great comeback from last year.
And here comes the road trip to ACC powerhouse Clemson. Clemson's loaded. They're my pick to win the national title. They've got All-Americans all over the field, playing in Death Valley. Right now, This game, you got to guard against the blowout. I don't see Florida State beating Clemson. Even if Florida State comes into this game with an Alabama win and a Miami win and they're undefeated, I don't see Florida State winning this game.
Keeping it real, Brien, and I love it. There's no doubt about it. Clemson's loaded. They're a monster. And then playing in Death Valley, I've played in that stadium before. It's one of the loudest stadiums in the country. It is crazy in there. Those fans are crazy. It's an extremely hard place to pull out a win, much less going against a team like that. There's no doubt about it. That's going to be a loss.
Week 10, they come back to Tallahassee for Virginia Tech. I've got Virginia Tech possibly coming into this game with 4 or 5 losses. They've got a really talented quarterback, and they're also coming off a bye week, whereas Florida State's coming off of a loss at Clemson. This is a must-win game to avoid potentially a 6-7 kind of season. I've got this as a win. Florida State moves to 7-3.
This is going to be an interesting game. There's no doubt about it. Like you said, great quarterback. I think it all depends on how beat up we get against Clemson and how big of a toll that game takes on us. Depends on how much of a confidence crusher that is. But coming in, I'm going to have to be realistic, Brien, and I'm going to say that we probably fight real hard, but we lose that game as well.
I've got them at 7-3. You're at 6-4. And we've got a trip to North Carolina State. I think Florida State plays at North Carolina State every year. I know it doesn't happen, but it seems like every year you look at the schedule and Florida State's got a trip to Raleigh. I think North Carolina State is probably in the 6-4, 5-5 range. You've got a rivalry game coming up against Florida the following week. This is the game that I think Florida State lets it slip away. They play really tough. They don't play together. They're just kind of out of sorts when they play at Carter Finley Stadium. I've got this as a loss.
I'm afraid of this game too, Brien. Unfortunately, they do play tough. And that's funny. You said it seems like we're always there, but this is going to be a tough one for sure. And I'm going to have to say it's going to be a loss as well, unfortunately.
All right. So we're going into the last week of the regular season. I've got Florida State at 7-4. And you've got them at 6-5. And I think I know where you're going here, but at Florida, down in Gainesville, Florida's got more talent. I'm really actually high on Florida this year. I think they're playing for a spot in the college football playoff going into this game. Florida State could maybe play spoiler. The swamp is tough. It's one of my favorite environments in college football. I think it's close early. Gators pull away. I've got this as a loss, and Florida State finishing 7-5 on the year.
You're smarter than me, and I think thinking with not as much emotion as I do, but there's no doubt about it. The Gators are a good team this season. They've got more talent than us, but I think Norvell brings our boys to play, and I think we pull it together and we pull out a victory in the swamp.
So we both finished with 7-5. We got there a little bit different. You got the wins over Miami and Florida. That'll be great for recruiting. I think I'd rather have your 7-5 than my 7-5, but I'll take it. I think it's a solid recovery from a 2-10 disaster last year. It gets them bowl eligible. It gives them those bowl practices, which are going to be so critical for the development of the young guys. We've got some missed opportunities in there, but getting that bowl practice is going to be great for the depth and development. And then also showing those high school recruits, all right, we've turned the page. 2-10 is gone. We made a bowl. We're over 500. And now you can come here and you can build on this for the 2026 season. Getting that bowl game and getting bowl eligible is got to be the number one key for Mike Norvell in the 2025 season. Missing a bowl game is not acceptable, and things will get really loud in Tallahassee if he doesn't get to that bowl eligibility.
Totally agree, Brien. I love that we both got to 7-5, a little bit differently, like you said, but I think that would be a fantastic rebound from last year. It's exactly what we need. Like you're saying, being bowl eligible would be huge for the program. But I think we all have to be realistic, right? Coming off of what we faced last year, it was just a debacle. And really, I don't think anybody saw it coming. And so for Coach Norvell to make the changes that he did, to bring in a lot of these new guys, We've got a whole new system. I think we have to be patient. I think we have to be realistic, but I think also this is Florida State. And so we also expect great things. And I think we can expect to be bowl eligible. The recruiting class was so strong this year. And for us to continue to build on that, we have to get back in the bowls and we have to start having winning seasons. And then eventually we're going to be back to being Florida State again.
Kirk, I really appreciate having you on Complete BS. We're looking forward to the college football season. And for what I'm going to predict right now, future Florida State Hall of Famer Kirk Carruthers. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Join us next time on Complete BS.
Thanks for listening to Complete BS. Be sure to subscribe, share, and follow us online. And tell us what you think of this episode. Use hashtag CouchCoachNation. And let's keep the conversation going.